Here we go.
Coaches. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, they can't hold a flame against you, ay. Blow the whistle, blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, got the game, it ain't no issue, yeah. Blowing the whistle, I had enough with you, the championship, it is gone. Ain't listen to you, I can't give it to you, cause you don't know what I've been on. This is the Coaches Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast for our 300th episode, guys. It has been a long journey since 2019, but we are in our 300th episode, guys. Really fun day to be here today. I'm on the road today. I'm not at my normal location, which definitely sucks for the 300th episode, but we got Coach Jibbs back in the building. What's going on, Coach Jibbs?
300, baby. Woo, 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 woo. We need some drops.
Yeah, I don't really have any drops, but it's definitely a great feeling. Me and Coach Jib started this way back in 2019, and we obviously picked up Coach John along the way, but he can't be with us tonight, unfortunately. But we had to make sure that we had this episode for you guys because, hey, Albert, what's going on, man? You know, we wanted to be here to give you guys as much possible fantasy advice as we can, and we figured with this 300th episode, this was a good time to get into that motion here. So before we get started, if you guys tuned in, whether it was, on YouTube, on Twitter, or wherever you guys are tuning in right now, I did say there was a special something going on tonight, guys. And that special something is based on our sponsor our new sponsor we have, Parlay Play. And I've mentioned it on the show the last week here, and how if you use the promo code Coach Steve, you could get yourself, a nice little, $100 deposit match. But a special thing today, because it's our 300th episode, I decided if I have 4 people who reach out to me and say and screenshot me that they signed up for Parlay Play, I will give them an additional $10 for them to use on whatever they want, whether it's more on Parlay or just $10 in your pocket. So basically, you could deposit $10, get $10 for free from them, $10 free from the coaches. And I think they even give you an additional $5. So it's not a bad way to play. So again, just go sign up, use the promo code, and send us a screenshot over on Twitter at Coaches Fantasy, and we will help you guys out and give you guys an extra $10. So I will bring that up again later in the show, but I wanted to start the show off with that. So let's get into it, guys. It's just Jibs, actually, not guys, just Jibs. The news today, guys. I don't have a news sheet because every time I kept on looking at the news and the practice reports, they haven't come out yet. And it's really upsetting me because I love our practice reports. And if we don't have the practice reports set up, things don't look as great. But from what I've been able to gather so far, Darren Waller's out. He's out this week. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is out this week here. You got players returning like Josh Allen, Raheem Mostert's back at practice. Saquon practiced this week so far. Josh Downs was downgraded to a limited practice Thursday, so that's an interesting situation. Gerald Everett's back at practice. Odell Beckham's back at practice. So there's a lot to talk about, especially when it comes to the quarterback situations. We all know that a lot of quarterbacks may be starting. I think Matthew Stafford hasn't practiced at all this week. So there's a lot of situations to go through. I know we've been talking a lot here, but we will get into the nitty gritty of each game like we usually do here and talk about some of these new replacements at quarterbacks and everything else in between. So let's just get started here, guys. All right. So week 9, we're in here. We start off with the Germany game. Weird to say Germany game here. The Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs here. And the biggest question in this game here, Jibs, is are you firing up Rishi Rice if he's on your team this week?
Oh, definitely not. I think there are a lot better options. If I was in a pinch with some bye weeks and I was playing in a 3 wide receiver league, I could see him as a flex. But the way the Chiefs operate, you just never know which wide receiver is going to have a good game, whether it could be Marquez Valdes-Scantling or another piece. But we know Travis Kelce is a consistent cog in the offense. But the Dolphins do allow some production to wide receivers. I think they give up the 10th most points. But there should be some room for him to have something he's going to be a good floor play because the guy is basically good for 10 PPR points most weeks. It's just the fact that this high scoring game could allow that. But I'm okay with them as like your fourth option on your team because, like I said, like to reach 10 PPR points like 5 out of 8 games so far this year. But it's been like on 4 catches and minimum production though.
And yeah, I definitely get your understanding on that overall. With Rishi Rice, you're not expecting upside play right now until he really progresses, but he can probably get you a solid 10 points. I think he's an okay flex play. I mean, the Dolphins are getting back their secondary, but I do believe this will be somewhat of a shootout game. And I think the way Rishi Rice has been playing and the fact that he's leading the team in snaps, he's good enough for me to flex this week. So. Some other good starts this week. Obviously, you're starting both quarterbacks, Tua and Patrick Mahomes. You're starting both starting running backs, Raheem Mostert, Zaya Pacheco. You start Tyreek Hill, Jalen Water, Travis Kelce. In terms of sits, I'm probably sitting most of the other Kansas City wide receivers. There's just no consistency, like Jibs mentioned before. It's kind of up and down a lot of times. I think Dorms might not play for this week for the Dolphins, so it could be a really bad situation for that situation. It's never really been good this year so far. And I mean, that's about it. I don't know, Jibs. Are you going to try to fire up maybe Jeff Wilson, or is he sticking on the bench still?
No, sir. If I want 5 carries and maybe hope for a touchdown, that's up for you guys to do that. But no, I'm pretty good off J Dubs.
I agree. Yeah, Jeff Wilson's not in starting lineup territory just yet. All right, over to the next game. The Minnesota Vikings and the Atlanta Falcons here, guys. All right, question of the game here. Is Jordan Addison still a flex option? No Kirk Cousins. Jaron Hall is now the starting quarterback.
Oof. This is tricky. I like if I don't have him on a team, but if I did, I'll probably still keep him in there, and I'll just pray and hope for the best. Like we barely got to see Jaron Hall last week, and I do know the Falcons have been getting torched by wide receivers like over the last couple of weeks. I think last 3 games they allowed 5 touchdowns. They allowed 4 wide receivers to reach at least 60 yards receiving, and 6 of them have gone more than 10 PPR points. So like it's not going to be a bad flex play for that because that's pretty much where you're probably wanting to get is that 10-point plateau. But obviously we're hoping for better because this rookie has been electric. So if I had him, I'm starting him in that flex.
Yeah, no, I think with Jaron Hall, I think there's enough production for him. He's a guy that can kind of get out of the pocket, scramble a little bit, and make plays, on the run. And I think that they're going to find ways to scheme up Jordan Addison across the field and get him the ball because he's just dangerous with the ball in his hands here. So I'm still safe with starting Jordan Addison in a flex spot. Again, it's not as confident as it was with Kirk Cousins at the quarterback helm, but there has to be some kind of pass production here, and Jordan Addison has been that guy this season here. So I'm still good with flexing him this week. A couple other good starts: Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. I think is fine for the tight end spot. T.J. Hawkinson is good for the tight end spot. Some sits. I'm not really starting the rookie, obviously. I don't believe that the Falcons will let that happen twice where they get shit on by a rookie. I'm not really trying to start this Madison Cam Akers situation here. Falcons are really good against the run. Trying to avoid that. Tyler Algier, I'm going to avoid that because I'm going to assume that, Bijan Robinson's playing in full. And pretty much all the other Atlanta Falcons wide receivers, unless Drake London doesn't play. There is a small chance that he's banged up and he doesn't play in this game. But if he's playing, you got to start him here. What about Tyler Heineke, Jibs? In maybe super flex leagues, obviously, you might be more inclined to start a guy like Tyler Heineke. How do you feel about him this week? Oh, you're on mute, my friend.
I didn't mind him last week in his short stint coming in for the concussed Desmond Ritter. Like he did show some promise throwing the ball. I liked him better than what I saw out of Ritter like the last couple of weeks. So I reluctantly have him starting in a super flex league. So I'm definitely down to ride with him because he has some maxi. Tell you that much.
Yeah, no, definitely. He has that gunslinging mentality. Like he isn't afraid to make the tough throws, and that's what we want in a lot of quarterbacks. That's what Desmond Ritter hasn't shown us much of this year, and it will help. If hopefully Drake London's on the field, it will help Kyle Pitts. And again, if no Drake London, you might want to look at maybe like a Van Jefferson potentially, more in deeper leagues. but Tyler Heineke is going to make the passing attack a little bit better. That's for sure. KJ Osborne, he kind of jumps back into that bench spot for me. I don't really want to. I mean, he wasn't really doing good outside of this past week here. I'm not going to take that as a thing to look forward to because Jaron Hall is the starting quarterback, and Jonnu Smith kind of has fallen off a little bit. He's seeing more of the tight end snaps, but he isn't really seeing the production that we saw in the back half of September there. So he is probably more of a sit this week than an actual start for fantasy. All right, over to the next game here, guys. Arizona Cardinals and the Cleveland Browns. Question of the game: would you prefer Hollywood Brown or Amari Cooper in this matchup?
I'm going with Cooper. The Cardinals are going to be switching up to Clayton Tune this week, and I'm sure Marquise Brown will pretty much still get the lion's share of targets. But I'd rather do a wait and see approach because obviously he's going up against this tough Cleveland Browns passing defense. They allow them pretty much minimal production of wide receivers. I think it's like the fourth fewest. And Cooper, on the other hand, has an advantageous matchup versus the Cardinals, who give up the 11th most points to wide receivers. And PJ Walker has shown some rapport, I guess, building and getting a little bit better. I know he's kind of shaky sometimes, but at least he won't be like just thrown into the fire this week. He'll have a couple of practice reps and whatnot. So I'm going to go Cooper over Marquise Brown.
I respect that. I mean, we don't know if Deshaun Watson is playing. He's been back at practice, which is fantastic.
He ain't playing.
He's probably not playing, but yeah, that would be PJ Walker once again. And to be honest, I really haven't seen anything that I like in PJ Walker, so I'm probably going to lean towards Hollywood Brown here in the tougher matchup. The way that Clayton Tune plays quarterback, he doesn't have a big arm, but he's a guy that's very accurate on the short passes, and I feel like they'll find ways to kind of get Hollywood the Brown underneath. And it might not be a pretty day, but I think I could see 6 for 67 yards kind of thing, where Cooper a little bit more boom or bust for me with Walker at quarterback. So I might lean Hollywood there, but I like both still enough that you could flex either one. Some other starts here. Jerome Ford is a good start. I think Kareem Hunt. I think you could pull out both Cleveland Browns running backs this week. The Cardinals are terrible against the run. Some sits. I'm not really trying to start Clayton Tune, Michael Wilson, Elijah Moore, and David Njoku, especially if there's no Deshaun Watson. Again, do you play Watson if he starts? It's a good matchup, but do you play him if he does start Jibs in like a 1 QB league?
He burnt me. I'm done with him.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with you. He'd be very uncomfortable to start in a 1 quarterback league unless you were that desperate. Just really hasn't been good on the field, and in the case of re-injury I think is really there for him. Amari DiMercato did not practice today, so that is something to take note. So there could be a situation, because I do like him in this matchup here. The Browns have been kind of a little bit more lenient to running backs this year, but so if he doesn't play, look for Keontae Ingram. I think they signed Tony Jones back to the active roster once again for the Cardinals. So maybe like low-end RB3s. I think DiMercato was already a low-end RB3, but whoever the Arizona starting running back is probably like a decent low-end RB3. What about Trey McBride, Jibs? Big game in his first start here. Tough matchup, but last week was a tough matchup too. Are you going to start? Can he be started in leagues this week?
He can be started, but like looking at some of the production the Browns have allowed, the only Mark Andrews has like had a monster game against them. Like everyone else is basically Mark Andrews had 80 yards receiving. The next closest guy was Noah Fant with 32. Everyone else has less than that. So like, if they don't get the act together, it's gonna be a bad day.
Yeah, no, I get that. You know, when I'm doing my rankings, I'm looking at the tight ends, and I'm like, I just keep pushing up Trey McBride. I'm like, oh, well, the upside's there. Look at everyone else surrounding him. It's the tight end position is really hard, and I think you can take a shot on McBride, but I don't know if he's going to have the same success. Gibbs is right; it's tough tight end market defense, but
I'll also say like if Michael Wilson, because he didn't practice either, so like if he doesn't play, I think that kind of gives him a little bright spot though.
I respect that. Okay. Good to know. I was not aware of that. So thank you for that update on there. So again, I couldn't find the practice reports today at all anywhere. Like no one gave their people their reports today for some reason. But that's the end of this game here. On to the next game here, guys. The Los Angeles Rams and the Green Bay Packers. And the question of the game here, like I said, Matthew Stafford, he's got a injured hand, his throwing hand, and if not, it's Brett Rippon. Are you still confident in the Rams' two wide receivers? I'm talking about Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua as must starts in Week 9, or is there a question now or a conversation in your head you're going to have?
There's a slight conversation with those guys. I'm not saying they're going to be like surefire starts, but like it's pretty hard to sit Cooper Cup, Puka Nacua. I probably project them as like a wide receiver 3, but like it's probably one of the lower end ones. And like if you're looking at the game, it's like a 38.5 over under. I could just see both teams just running the crap out of the ball. And we said Bryce Rippon, right? That's his.
Yeah, Brett
Yeah,
Rippon.
Brett Rippon. No, that doesn't
Yeah.
sound. It doesn't make me any more confident. I could expect him to have like low passing volume and pretty inefficient numbers too. So I'll keep Cup in my lineup. Nakua, I've been taking him in and out of my lineups depending on some of these injury reports, but I'm not confident whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm still going to start both of them in the long run because the upside that they provide them as themselves if they get the ball in their hand. But it's a conversation that I'm going to have for my fantasy team. So if there are players out there who you've been sitting and you're like, well, you know what? He's got a good matchup. Let me like Deontay Johnson tonight. He's got a good matchup. Do I consider Deontay Johnson over like Puka Nacua? It's a possibility now. Maybe a week ago, I would be like, no. I like Deontay, but it's Puka Nacua all day there. And you have to, and it's kind of by team basis, unfortunately, when it comes to these two. But in the long run, you're likely going to want to start both of them in your team. But again, it's a conversation that you need to have with yourselves moving forward, at least in Week 9. For the starts, like the must starts, I think Henderson and Royce Freeman are both really good starts, especially if the quarterback situation, whether Stafford's there or not, they're going to need to run the ball a little bit more, and the Packers have a terrible run defense. I think Luke Musgrave is a decent tight end start. The Rams give up a lot of fantasy points to tight ends this year. In terms of sits, like I really don't want to start Jordan Love. I don't want to start Matthew Stafford or Brett Rippon. A.J. Dillon, I don't want to get near him. Tutu Atwell is just a one-play guy. How about Aaron Jones, Jibs? Hopefully, maybe this week he sees more production, or do you need to see it before he gets back on the field?
I need to see it before I get back on the field. The guy's been hamstring. Like that line just doesn't look good. Neither running backs can run the ball, so I gotta see it before I do it.
Yeah. As do I. I think that it's a risky play to put him in lineups here. The Rams are decent against running backs this year here, and this whole offense just hasn't really looked good on the ground, at least. So I'd like to rather avoid if I can. You could talk about the Packers wide receivers. It's just a whole jambalaya mess. Like it's just we don't know who's the main guy there. Every week it seems to be someone different between Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, and Jaden Reed. I kind of had them pegged as wide receiver 4s, where maybe Watson has the upside, Dobbs has the touchdown dependency, and Reed is more of a low end upside play. Like I think you could start any one of those 3 this week, but like you're like taking it like a dart throw. Like that's how I feel about. I don't know how you feel about these Packers wide receivers, Jibs, but it feels like I'm throwing a dart at a pie and hoping for the best.
Yeah, I kind of gave up on both. I have like a couple teams with Watson and Dobbs on it for some reason, and like I just can't play either of them. And I feel like every time I do play Dobbs, it's like he'll get the touchdown, but I'm always having someone like on the bench that's just like erupting and having better like volume and consistency.
Yeah,
And
I
plus,
agree with that.
Jordan Love has not played well over these
He
last
is
2
not.
weeks.
He hasn't played well basically the whole season, and to be honest, so but and again, like Tyler Higbee, like the matchup is good, but like the quarterback situation now turns into somewhat of a mess. And he had 7 targets last week, the most in like 4 weeks. The matchup's not bad, but again, he's just another one of those. He's one of those tight ends. It's like, where's the upside? I'd rather start an upside Luke Musgrave and hope for the best with him because Tyler Higbee doesn't really offer much upside in fantasy this week. So, all right, over to the next game here. We are on the Commanders and the New England Patriots here. Question of the game: is rookie wide receiver Demario Douglas worth a flex spot? Jibs.
I was going back and forth on this one.
What's up, Josh?
What up, Josh? Um, like I do think there's some better options out there, and like he's another one I'll consider like flex him in a three wide receiver league. He has a great matchup versus this Commanders defense. They have the second most points to wide receivers. They just had a fire sale on defense, giving up their two biggest pass rushers. Mac Jones, if he can't have an outstanding game this week, I don't think Mac Jones belongs in the NFL, to be honest with you. I think he'll have enough time and stay in the pocket, makes his reads, dart it out to Mario Douglas. We've seen him have like a huge target share and a route per run and all that good stuff last week or last couple weeks. So without Kendrick Byrne being there, like I think he should be in a good spot. But I also think some managers will probably have three other wide receivers that are probably better than him. But he should be right in that flex conversation now.
Yeah, I'm in that flex conversation as well. I really do like Demario Douglas this week here. They just really haven't relied on Juju to do anything. The next possible receiver, I don't know if even Devontae Parker is playing. He had a head injury, which makes me feel like he's probably going to be out this week. And again, they really have no one else. Jalen Rager got signed to the squad. They have Keyshawn Booty out there, but like Demario Douglas has been seeing the targets, and he's someone that I think in the right situation this week you can flex, and you should feel very comfortable as him in a flex spot. We have a question from Josh in the chat here. Let's see, which trade do you like more in a 20-man? Ooh, 20-man, I love that PPR league. Would you rather trade Jacoby Myers and Demario Douglas for DK, or Aaron Jones and Demario for Josh Jacobs? Well, it looks like you have you have Aaron Jones as your RB2. I'd probably rather. Ooh, that's a good question, actually. I think I would take the Josh Jacobs side. That's how I feel about that situation.
Number two as well for me.
Yeah, I think that the upgrade from Jacoby Myers to DK isn't like that big, but the upgrade from Josh Jacobs to Aaron Jones, I think rest of the season will be bigger. I think they're going to rely on running the ball a lot. The new head coach is Antonio Pierce. Josh McDaniels got fired. Like I feel like he's just an old school guy, like who wants to run the ball and play defense. And I think Josh Jacobs is going to be in for a big second half of the season. But do you believe that both trades are fair for a 20-man league?
They're fair. I'd rather I'll still go number two. Like Tyreek Hill is providing production for two wide receivers. He's like CMC. He'll give you two running back spots. So you don't really need that DK because DK is we're gonna talk about him later. But I feel like that passing offense is just it's like Green Bay Packers better. You know.
Right. Yeah. I think it just depends how you value Demario Douglas. Like I like him in this matchup here, but do I like him again all season long? I don't know if I do. This matchup just makes so much sense to put him on the field this week, and he's a really small wide receiver. Again, whether it's like just season long or even dynasty right now, I think on a 20-man league, I want to get those big upside players for your fantasy team right now, and I think Josh Jacobs will do that for you, and DK Metcalf could too, but I like Josh Jacobs on the better end there. All right. Thank you, Josh, for that. All right. Where were we back in this game here? Yeah. So some starts. I think you just got to keep going with Sam Howell. He's just a boom or bust quarterback one in fantasy. Ramondre Stevenson's going to have a lot easier time with that Commanders front seven and how traded away. Terry McLaurin is in for a big game. He's been playing very well lately. Logan Thomas is solid for a tight end. As John would say, he's that borderline tight end one that you want in fantasy. Some sits, Antonio Gibson, Zeke Elliott. I really don't want to trust either one of those guys per se. I mean, Zeke's okay, but like they're not really producing enough, and I think the starters will be much better. Would you give Mac Jones a go in Superflex leagues, Jibs?
Yeah, I would.
Yes.
Like I know the passing volume is pretty much going to cap out around like 25, 27 pass attempts, but he should fare pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could take that risk this week. Brian Robinson, again, the matchup is okay, and he's been kind of saved by touchdowns. He's more of like a flex play this week here. That's kind of why I'm in the middle. Like, I'd look for another option if I can, but he's a fine play. Would you give Juju a start?
Hell no.
No, I need to see it from Juju before he gets on the field too. Jahan Dotson had a big week last week. The matchup's decent, but do you go for him there?
I'm thinking about flexing him this week, to be honest. Like, I'm hoping like that last week with him getting a little bit of recognition from Sam Howe. We'll probably pay some dividends and have him do the same thing this week. We saw Tyreek Hill and Waddle have a good week last week, and we've seen two wide receivers have production against his Commanders defense constantly. I mean, New England's defense. Sorry.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I think he can personally. You're very welcome, Josh. I think he can start him. I think you can personally. That's how I feel about it. I think that there's the upside play with him this week. We saw the speedy wide receivers do well against the Patriots last week, and Dawson has that speed. How do you feel about the tight ends? Do you think that the tight ends get more involved with them kind of just destroyed at wide receiver?
I don't. They could get them more involved, but I still think they're just eating into each other's though. Like you just never
Yeah,
know.
that's true. I mean, I don't know. I kind of weirdly like Mike Gesicki this week because he kind of lines up as a wide receiver, and I feel like he could be in for a sneaky good week. Again, you'd have to do that if you're in like deep leagues. But I don't know. I like his sneakiness there. Oh, we have another question in the chat from Dylan. Hurts and Olave or Burrow and Puka rest of the season? Do you think it's it's fair and close? So which sides do you prefer, Jibs? No.
Oh man.
I would say Hurts and Olave personally. I think rest of the season, I want the Jalen Hurts upside that he offers, and I'd rather just take that, even though Burrow had a good week last week personally. And I think it's pretty fair overall. I think you have like the 1 and 4, and then the 2 and the 3. Like that's how I would rank them in that order, kind of right now. So I think it's pretty fair trade all around, personally.
I think it's fair. I'll be a homer and go with Hurts. I think Olave could definitely step up eventually.
Yeah, Derek Carr was hurt too, so hopefully he kind of, the bit more he recovers from his injury, he should be better. So, all right, over the next game here, we have the Bears and Saints. Question the game: do you flex DJ Moore, Jibs?
I'm doing it, and I think he's more of a low end flex. The Saints have been pretty difficult matchup for both wide receivers and quarterbacks. They have Saints have allowed, I think, the 3 last opposing quarterbacks less than 213 passing yards per game, but I think they allowed like 5 touchdowns in total. And the Saints also give up the 11th fewest points to wide receivers. I think for DJ Moore to have a decent game, I think it would be smart for the Bears coordinators and offensive coaches to put him in the flex, where we've seen people like Christian Kirk and some other speedy slot receivers have production over the last couple of weeks. But that's all they have. Like, and I'm riding with it, so I'm flexing DJ Moore.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I kind of like that. I like DJ Moore enough to flex him. I think the targets are there. I don't know if the production will be at a top tier level, but the targets are there, and that's good enough for me to flex, because any opportunity for him, you have a potential also do that. So I do like that. Question in the chat from Sam here. Hey guys, pick 2 wide receivers in 1 flex: DK, Higgins, Downs, Addison, Hunt, and Henderson. I'm going to start Higgins. I'm going to start Downs. And I might lean Henderson personally. I'm okay with Addison too, but I might lean Henderson for the matchup.
I'm going to go Higgins. I'm going to take a shot with DK, and I'm going to flex Addison.
Okay. All right. So at least Higgins. I'm okay with the Addison over Henderson personally. And but how you feel about DK and Downs, that's how we feel about it. All right. Dylan's gonna agree. I made some big moves. Thoughts on that trade there, Jibs? How do you feel about that trade? Ford, Goddard, Diggs, Henderson, Hawkinson, Deontay Foreman, not Foreman. God, I'm just saying names out loud now as I'm trying to speak here. Yeah, I think it's a good move. I like it.
Oh wow!
If you got ETN and Bonta Smith, yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
I
personally
like it.
I think Hawkinson still would be a nice player. It would be just a nice tight end no matter what, even with the backups.
It's a good trade. It's a great trade because you have Smith, Ayuk, Waddle, and Flowers still. So that's a great receiving core. So good job, Dylan. Way to go. King says Roshan over Foreman.
Yeah.
That's how I feel this week about it, personally. We saw what happened to the Bears last week when they fell behind in a game, and I think that will happen this week. And we saw Foreman kind of just see the groundwork, and that's really about it. While Roshan, I think he's going to see even more work this week, got involved in the passing game heavily. So I do prefer that personally. And I think, Jibs, you said too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Here's a question, Jibs. Cooper or Deontay Johnson? Is it Amari Cooper, I'm assuming? Bryce, if you want to let us know just to make sure.
If it's Amari, it's Deontay.
Yeah. How do you feel if it was Cooper Cup, though? That's the question I asked you before.
I think I'm going to go Deontay still.
Oh, God. I think you said Amari. Oh, yeah. If it's Amari or Deontay, I'm picking Deontay still. I think Kenny Pickett had a full practice yesterday, so he should be good to go for this matchup here. And Pickett had like 10 of his 14 attempts go to Deontay Johnson. He loves Deontay Johnson, so I'm going to ride with that tonight in a good matchup. Some other good starts in this Bears-Saints game. Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, Cole Kmet, Taysom Hill, as long as he plays. I know he got banged. He was on the injury report today. Sits, Tyson Baggett, Deontay Foreman, Jamal Williams, Darnell Mooney. I think Michael Thomas and Rashard Rashid can be good flex plays overall. I don't know how you feel about them, Jibs. Are they, okay flex plays for you?
What was that? Shaheed, definitely.
Sheed and Thomas.
Thomas is basically like, I feel 3 catches and some red zone work. Low end. They could be flexes.
Yeah, I do like both of them as flex plays. King has another question: Roshan or Dameon Pierce?
Ooh, Roshan.
Well, Dameon Pierce might not play this week. He's missed practice the last 2 days now. So that might actually make it easier for you, but I think I would pick Roshan. Pierce has just been bad. Unfortunately. Actually, not unfortunately. I called it. Seattle, Baltimore. Do we start all 3 Seattle wide receivers in a tough matchup?
I'm gonna start DK. I got confidence in Locker. I just think JSN's been kind of lucky to get those touchdowns the last 2 weeks. The volume has been pretty damn low, and he's been used in the short yardage area.
Yeah, I'm actually probably only okay with Metcalf. Lockett is a little too boom or bust for me unless you need that for your lineup this week. And JSN, you're right. The touchdowns have been there, but the targets have still been pretty low, and I can't keep relying on touchdowns for the third player on the receiving core. So, yeah, that's how I feel it. Some starts here. Lamar Jackson, Ken Walker, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews. You're sitting Geno Smith, Justice Hill, Rashad Bateman, any Seattle tight end. Zach Charbonnet's, I put him there just because he might be seeing more work in this game, but it is kind of tough to want to consider him as a start. I don't know why I have Gus Edwards on the line, but is Gus Edwards to you, Jibs, a must start this week?
I don't know.
Should he be in lineups no matter what?
He's been pretty hot over the last 2 weeks. I haven't taken him out, especially with some of these bye week replacement types. So he's better than all of them. So I'll keep him in.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he has to score touchdowns this week in this particular game to be good. But yeah, you can start Gus Edwards. He's fine. I put Odell here because I think Odell has some sleeper potential against Seattle secondary. But again, you'd have to probably be in more deeper man leagues to consider that an actual option for lineup. So, all right, before we get going, just want to reiterate our promo that we have going on today for our 300th episode here, guys, with Parlay Play. It's a sport betting site that we partnered up with here. There's a promo code out there for us under Coach Steve. They're match your deposit up to $100. And again, if you screenshot that you did it, send it over to our Twitter at Coaches Fantasy. And say that you signed up with our promo code, we'll send you guys an extra $10 for free. So you can gamble it or do whatever you want with it. So I'll post that also on here too, so you can see that. But yeah, that's our promo that's going on for our big 300 episode day. It's a lot of fun. I wish I was home, but I'm not. Let's get back to the games. All right, Tampa Bay, Houston. Are we going for Tank Dell again? Is Tank Dell back in lineups once again?
Oh, that wasn't the question I got.
Oh, I might have changed it a little bit. I might have changed it slightly, but it was pretty close. I mean, was he? Were you starting a Texan? Was he a part of that start, or was he not?
No, I was just gonna
Okay.
ride with Nico.
All right. So then you're not starting Tank Dell then.
No.
No. Okay. I respect it here. Yeah. I'm okay with him as another flex option again. I'm hoping that, the weeks off that he had with the injury, he just kind of need to get his footing back in place there. I'm okay with starting him again. But again, I don't think it's like a must start kind of situation. If you're in a pinch, I think he might be okay. Some other starts, CJ Stroud, Rashard White is a start this week. Personally, I think I like him a lot. Nico Collins, obviously, Jibs mentioned him. Sits are Baker, Damian Pierce, Kate Otten, Dalton Schultz. If Singletary gets the job to himself this week, Jibs, and say Pierce is out, you trust him as a flexible option?
Dude, I actually had him listed just because of Pierce's injury, but trust is a hard word. Tampa Bay is still a stout run defense. They've been a stout defense over these last like 5, 6 years. I no matter what, I just feel like whoever's behind the offensive line, it's just bad run blocking. So like if he even gets all the work, I still think he probably only get 60 yards and probably still be kept out of the end zone. So, but
All
he's on the
right.
line.
Yeah, I think he is on the line there. I think that if you're in a pinch, I think if he's the only guy there this week, and that's if Damian Pierce misses, I think you could throw him in your starting lineup and he might be okay. Now, if they both play, I don't really want to start either one per se, but if he's by himself, it might be okay. I put Evans and Godwin in the middle. The Texans are really good secondary. So it's like they're fine flex plays, but they don't allow a lot of touchdowns. And both Evans and Godwin caught a touchdown this week. I predict that neither one will catch a touchdown in week 9. So that's kind of how I feel about both, but they're flexible options for fantasy this week. Next game here, Indianapolis Colts, Carolina Panthers. Do we flex Zach Moss?
I got
Is
him in the
this
flex spot in a couple, but it's not like the most confident. It's just like going off his body of work this whole year, and I just like the matchup. Like we've seen Taylor and him basically almost get like equal rushing attempts, and he's being utilized in the red zone somewhat. And Carolina is just so bad against running backs. Like they got saved last week because Houston can't run the ball. So I'm
that's
I'm
true.
I'm down to ride with him.
Yeah, I think he's okay flex play. I think you can get something out of him. We keep seeing that they're splitting this backfield pretty well, especially with the touches. And if he can see like another 15, 12 carries, I mean, this is a really good matchup. Like I could see Zach Moss having a drive to himself and getting 60 yards and a touchdown pretty easily in this game. So I'm okay with him as a flex. Gardner Minshew, I like him as a start. Jonathan Taylor, Joshua Downs, Adam Thielen, all starts for me. Alec Pierce, DJ Shark, any Colts tight end, all tight ends actually in both sides, probably sitting those guys. How do you feel about Bryce Young in a super flex league? Are you going to go with him? The Colts are pretty bad secondary overall. Do you trust him enough to play him, or you might have to be honest,
Yeah, I'll trust him enough.
because there's a lot of backup quarterbacks
Yeah,
playing
it's
now.
pretty bad. Like I'm just like praying for Justin Fields to get back. I'm starting Bryce Young in a one quarterback league. Like
Oof,
it's so
that's
bad.
rough. That is rough. Oh God. How do you feel about the Chuba Sanders situation? Chuba had the work coming out. They said that he has that a beast mentality or something like that today. Is he just start? Should he be on the start side?
I don't think not quite yet. If they're still gonna like
Hmm.
give Sanders some work, but like it's definitely Chuba over Sanders.
Yeah, I think if you were choosing for someone, I think he could be a sneaky RB2 this week here. I think the matchup is, again, he should have done it last week, but the matchup is better than it was against the Texans last week. The Colts are a really bad run defense as well. So I'm okay going back to Chuba. Sanders, I probably wouldn't touch in starting lineups. Michael Pittman, I put him here because the Panthers have been decent against wide receivers this year. And I feel like Pittman and Minshew are kind of off their game. Like he's been getting lucky with these big touchdown plays. And I don't know if I trust that every week, but I think good enough to flex still, Jibs, right? Good flex still. Not good
Yeah,
enough. Good flex still. Yes.
good.
Yeah. And Mingo is an interesting deep league guy. He had his best game of the season last week here. And if, this Colts secondary, as bad as they are, I think Mingo could end up having his first big game of the season. So I just wanted to throw him out there. Over the next game, the New York Giants and the Las Vegas Raiders. This game's going to be terrible. Do we start Devontae Adams?
Oh man, after that one,
Aiden O'Connell is now the starting quarterback. Jimmy G gets benched. Is
One
Adams still a
catch,
start?
7 yards. Hell yeah, I'm starting them. Firing them up too. I think now that they clean house, I think the Raiders probably could just like ask, "Hey, Josh Jacobs, hey, Devontae Adams, what do you guys want to do? What works well with you?" And they're gonna let them do it. So I'm down the ride. And I believe Aiden O'Connell had starts last year, right?
He's a rookie this year. He had
He's a
one
rookie.
start this year. Yes.
Oh, oh God. Well, yep,
Yes.
I'm riding.
He started one game, and again, it wasn't that great. But this past time, I think he filled in for Brian Hoyer 2 weeks ago, and he looked a little bit better. But yeah, I think you can continue. I think you go back to Devontae Adams. I think the rookie quarterback will kind of feed their best weapon instead of whatever Jimmy G was doing the last few weeks here. Now, I think Aiden O'Connell will like focus in on one wide receiver, and it will be Devontae Adams. So. Because if not, Devontae Adams will come at him very hard. So I think you should be okay with Adams back in lineup. Saquon, Josh Jacobs. I'm sitting all the Giants wide receivers. I don't care if Darren Waller's out. Who can you trust to start? Like, who can you actually trust? The Raiders are actually a really good secondary, but like, who can you actually trust? Like, I can't trust Darius Slay, Wandell Robinson, Jalen Hyatt. Like, I can't physically trust them in lineups because they haven't shown me anything all year. Giants are pretty good against tight ends. Micah Mayer is kind of back into that sit column. You know, really outside of that one game, he kind of failed the last 2 weeks now for me. Daniel Jones, do you put Daniel Jones back in lineups if he's starting, Jibs?
No.
Yeah, I would want to wait a week to see how healthy he is or not. And if he doesn't go, which I believe he is, though, it would be Tommy DeVito. Aiden O'Connell, I think he might be okay in Superflex leagues because just based on the amount of backup quarterbacks playing, I think I trust him the most. He has the most experience in terms of all the backup quarterbacks. So I put him out there. Jacoby Myers, he's flexing him this week still. He's been a pretty strong flex play all season.
He has, but I'm more of cautious when it comes to these rookies. Like if there's a stud receiver or something like that, yeah, sure. But I think I might have to put him on the pine.
I respect it. All right. Yeah, I think I'm okay starting him still. Honestly, I'm fine with it. Daniel Bellinger becomes a sleeper tight end for this team now with Darren Waller out. He was someone who was decent at times as a rookie last year. So he could be the guy that steps up and has a decent outing this week. Cowboys, Eagles, Jibs. Big game here in the afternoon slots. Who's the running back to start in this one? Tony Pollard or DeAndre Swift?
I'm back in DeAndre Swift this week. The Eagles secondary has been the soft spot in the defense. The front seven has been playing pretty damn well, especially stopping the run. They're only allowing 52 rushing yards per game. And the highest rushing total was last week with Brian Robinson's 59. So you said he hasn't been playing good. Touchdowns have been saving him. I think that's going to be kind of the case for Tony Pollard. He's going to have to make his hay in the receiving game. I think he's averaging like 25 yards and 4 catches per game.
Oof, that's rough.
Yeah, so I think the Eagles allow like 33 receiving yards per game. So I know DeAndre Swift hasn't been that good, but I'll take my chances with him going against the Cowboys defense that's averaging like 75 yards and probably like, I don't know, some receptions, but
Right,
I'll go with
of course. Right. Yeah, I think I'm going to lean DeAndre Swift too in this matchup here. I feel like he's just getting better every single week. His snaps are at a steady level now, and Pollard is a concern right now. I mean, I still like to buy low on a guy like Tony Pollard, but yeah, that Eagles front seven has been tough this year, and I think they've only gotten better as the season has gone on. So I want to avoid Tony Pollard unless he sees this 6 or 7 reception game again that he saw like maybe a month ago now. Like, it's just been real difficult to trust Tony Pollard, but I think you have to start both. But yeah, it's not looking good right now for either one on these running backs. Starts, you go back to Dak, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, CD Lamb, Jake Ferguson, Dallas Goedert, Julio Jones. You don't obviously touch him at all. Devonta Smith, Jibs. You just going to start him? Is he just going to be a start? Like, you fine with him? He only had, again, we talked about him like a week ago saying like, well, he hasn't done anything in the last month. And then he had his big game. He had a big game this past week.
Yeah, he had a big game because someone just left him wide open, but it's a sign of encouragement. I'm going to keep Devonta Smith in my lineups.
Yeah, you have to. I think more of a flex option personally, though. I
Oh
think you
yeah,
have to come with a little more concern. I don't think he's back just yet. I love Devonta Smith, but the way this offense is running, it's AJ Brown or nothing half the time. So, you saw that Smith had a good game and Dallas Goedert had a bad game last week. So they're going to probably rotate at
interchangeable.
times. Yeah, interchangeable all season, unfortunately. What about Michael Gallup and Brandon Cooks? This is a good matchup for the wide receivers. You trusting maybe one of them as a flex option if you had to?
If I'm gonna trust one of them, it'll be Michael Gallup, but
Hmm.
it's still pretty hard.
Yeah, I'd actually probably trust Brandon Cooks personally.
Right,
I think
so
you could. I think either one could be a sleeping deep sleeper kind of type, but that's about it for these two wide receivers. So, all right, Sunday night football game. We're almost done, guys. Buffalo Bills and Cincinnati Bengals here. Question of the game: T. Higgins or Gabe Davis?
I'm gonna go with T. Higgins, even though like Gabe Davis is coming off a huge game from Thursday Night Football. And I think his matchup's a little bit better than Gabe Davis. And
Right.
I just don't feel like I don't want to be overblown by that game. Stephon Diggs was literally shut out by the Tampa Bay Bucks defense, and just like we were talking about with Devontae Adams chirping his quarterback and all those people, I think Stephon Diggs is kind of due to get his receptions and all that stuff. So I just don't want to have Gabe Davis just getting like 5 catches, 20 yards, and like maybe that touchdown that we've been chasing. But he's been a touchdown magnet. Otherwise, like T. Higgins is looking pretty better after coming off those ribs injuries, and like I'll just take him being like the second fiddle over this Bills passing attack that's featuring Kincaid. We saw Shakir, and then obviously the big dog Stephon Diggs.
Of course, absolutely. We got a question in chat from Tingley here. Flowers, Dell, Lockett at the flex spot, PPR. Which one are you choosing to start?
Flowers.
Flowers as well. Yeah, I like Flowers there too. And he also asked about Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard this week. Tony Pollard rest of the season. Let us know, Tingley. Let us know.
It's a
I'll
tough
answer.
matchup this week.
Yeah, this week's tough play for him. I think you almost have to because he is the lead guy there. But it is a tough matchup. Season long, I'd like to buy low on him. I don't believe the Cowboys defense will hold up where they're scoring like 14 points on their own each week. So, and Tony Pollard will have to play into the fourth quarter. Hasn't played into the fourth quarter many games this year because they haven't had to need him to. So, tough matchup this week, but season long still will love to buy low on him. All right. Some good start. Oh, I didn't talk about my choice here, and I'm gonna go with T. Higgins with you too, Jibs. I just feel like the offense is going to thrive against this bad Bill secondary, even though they got Rashad Douglas, I think, from the Packers. I still want T. Higgins in this matchup this week here. I expect him to kind of bounce back after being basically useless half the season here. So I like him this matchup. I think it's gonna be a big shootout here in Cincinnati. Starts Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, Dalton Kincaid. You're sitting Latavius Murray. I'm probably going to sit Khalid Shakir still, Irv Smith. You going back to James Cook?
It's getting hard each and every week, but we did see McCaffrey have a explosive receiving game, which Cook's kind of profiles as, and even Ken Walker put in some work the last week before the bye, so I do like him. I don't think they're gonna let Lenny loose yet, so but it's gonna be hard to trust him moving forward, especially if they have a three-headed monster instead of the two that they're running with.
Yeah, definitely a big blow seeing Leonard Fournette sign there. Well, as long as he makes the active roster, he's on the practice squad still, so let's calm down. But yeah, I don't really like this matchup for him. The Bengals are pretty tough against running backs this year, so I'm looking to avoid James Cook slightly if I can. He might not be able to. You might have to just start him. So, and final game of the night: Chargers Jets. Can we flex Quentin Johnston, Jibs?
I am not touching him. You know, he had a breakout game, but that Jets defense is a no-fly zone. They shut down plenty of wide receivers this year so far.
Yes, I am not starting Quentin Johnson either. This is not the matchup to go back to him after a decent play last week. Even if what about if Joshua Palmer's out? Does that change it a little bit?
No.
No, okay.
Not at all.
It changes a little bit for me if Joshua Palmer's out and he's been banged up this week. But again, it's not confidence. It's more of like target opportunity, and target opportunity might not always lead to fantasy production consistently. And like Jib said, this is a very tough matchup. Their secondary is back and looking good and healthy out there. So definitely not the greatest. But I think he can be flexed, but I don't know if I'd want to personally. Some starts. I'm still starting Justin Herbert, Breece Hall, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Garrett Wilson. Sitting Zach Wilson, Tyler Conklin's a sit. Do you play the Chargers tight end? Like, do you like if you know that Gerald Everett misses this game, or if he plays, like, do you trust Gerald Everett or Donald Farham if one of them is the actual starter in tight end leagues?
I would trust if one of them misses time. Hopefully it's Parham, because he definitely gets some red zone looks.
Yeah, if Gerald Everett's out, I would trust Farham as a sleeping tight end. Jets are terrible against tight ends this year. Again, Joshua Palmer, he's been looking good, but this past week obviously got a little banged up. Is you going back to him as a flex option?
I don't know. Like, he looks pretty shaky coming back in after that knee injury. So
yeah,
it's still a tough matchup.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think I'd probably leave Palmer on my bench if I could this week, just to see how his knees dealing in game. Again, the Chargers are one of the worst teams against wide receivers this year. Any chance that Alan Lazard kind of pops up this week?
Yeah, he's gonna pop up and drop a pass.
Yeah, in deeper leagues, I would maybe give Alan Lazard a flex play. Again, it's risky because we don't know how Zach Wilson is, but yeah, this game, I don't really like this game at all. I wish this wasn't an actual game we had to watch on Monday Night Football, but it is, unfortunately so. All right, well,
ratings are down.
The ratings are so down. But that is going to wrap us up tonight. That was our 300th episode. Man, that was a lot of fun getting back to just me and Coach Jibs, back to the old days. Jibs are the roots. Yeah. Anything you want to say, brother, before we get going tonight?
Deontay Johnson, I need you, man. Start Thursday off right. Gonna get back into that tradition, baby.
Yeah, I like that. Maybe some Will Levis too. But we thank you all for tuning in for our big episode. This was a ton of fun. As always, guys, we appreciate you, whether you're listening live on our YouTube channel at The Fantasy Coaches, whether you're listening live on Spotify or Apple Podcasts afterwards. We appreciate it. We're just here to help you guys with the knowledge that we have from our fantasy teams and try to give you guys the best advice possible to win championships every single week as you can. So, and of course, one last time for our promo, it's down here at the bottom, Parlay Play. It's a sport betting site we just partnered up with. If you use the promo code Coach Steve, they will match you on your first deposit up to $100. I believe they give you $5 for free. And if you screenshot that you signed up, send it over to our Twitter at Coaches Fantasy and let us know that you did. Screenshot it and send it to us, and we will send you, the first 5 people who do so, $10 for free. So you're getting, say you deposit $10 in, you get almost $25 for free. So do that tonight. Do it whenever. Send us a screenshot. First 5 people to do it, we'll give an additional $10 from us at the Coaches here. And again, guys, we appreciate you all for tuning in, listening. This was a ton of fun. We'll be back Monday to talk Week 10 waiver wires and everything from the weekend. We thank you guys all for listening. Tune in until next time, guys, and have a good one.
Back to back is not far-fetched. We got a couple of Clark